Alrighty, Friday. No, it's not Friday. It's Thursday. Thursday, April 4th. I'm going for a drive. Talk a little bit about psychology. You know, the psychology of driving an electric car versus a gas or diesel car. You know, I had my brother-in-law wanted me to move the car. I was parked in the way, and I said, well, just, the keys are in it. You know, I live in a small town. I said, keys are in it, just move it. Well, I don't know how to drive an electric car. I never drove one before. And they said, it's a car. It's exactly the same as a gas car. The only difference is that, oh, ding, ding, I gotta fasten my feet belt. There. I said, it's just like a gas car. You get in it, and then you hit the start thing, and then you step on the throttle doohickey, and the thing moves. I said, it's really no different. And I've had other people say that too, that, you know, did it take you very long to learn how to drive an electric car? No, I said, it's a car. The only thing that's weird about it is, I said, you start it and nothing happens. And then you step on the accelerator and the car moves. And it's, you know, that's the only weird part about the whole thing, is you don't really hear the engine running. You don't have that input. But I said, you know, there is actually a psychological thing that goes along with driving an electric car versus a gasoline car. And, you know, obviously I've driven gasoline cars my entire life. And driven bobcats and backhoes and everything else that run on different kinds of fuels, internal combustion devices. But I said, you know, you do have that engine noise that kind of indicates that you're about to move, or you're moving, or the thing is at least running, where with an electric car you don't have that. So you have that, you do have to get used to that portion of it. But just the driving experience itself, there's a planning that is different. You get in a gas car, and you basically just get in it. You might glance at the gas indicator to see if your fuel tank is full or empty or a third or whatever it is, and you know, you give it a glance and think, well, I'm driving 20 miles and I got a half a tank, I'm good, and that's it. And you know, if it's a quarter tank and you're in a hurry, well, I can go to my meeting or whatever I got to do, and then I'll just get some gas for the way home. Where with electric car, you kind of have to look a little bit differently, and the way you treat the car is different. You obviously look at your guessometer, and it tells you how many miles of range you have. So, and there's also a meter that tells you the charge, you know, how much your battery's charged. It gives you some of the cars give you a percentage of charge. Mine doesn't. Mine has bars, and you have to just kind of figure it out. But you know, if you're going on say for instance, I'm just going to go for a 30-mile trip. I'm looking right now, it says I have 170 miles of range. Well, I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to go. But say I want to drive to I don't know, Kansas, and it's 400, 500 miles. Maybe I want to go to South Dakota to the Black Hills. That's 600 miles from here. Well, I'm going to get on my app, and I'm going to plan my route. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the car is charged to at least 85%, maybe 100. Typically, I charge it to 100 on a long trip like that. And then I would plan my stops. And, you know, after about 170, 200 miles, I would stop and charge, maybe. You know, it depends. Tell you the truth, the ideal system is about every 100 miles, you stop and you plug in, you take a little break, go to the bathroom, maybe get a cup of coffee or something to drink, and charge for about 10 minutes or so, maybe 15, and then drive another 100 miles or so, 100, 120, something like that. It's actually kind of a good plan, you know. we traveled on trips every year for the last 50 years or so on our motorcycle. And one thing we learned fairly quickly is you stop every 75 miles. You know, you get these guys that say, oh, we drove 900 miles and never stopped and this kind of crap. And I said, well, that's torture. That's stupid. We stop every 75 miles. You get off, go to the bathroom, whatever. And a lot of times you stop for 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes at the most. Usually, there's been times when we'll just pull off onto a off-ramp. Oh, I just hit a duck. We'll pull into an off-ramp, get off the bike, stand up, stretch your back a little bit, get right back on and go. That 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it was, that's going to make you more alert. You're going to feel more comfortable. It gets the blood flowing in your legs. And you're just going to feel a little bit better for the next 20 or 30 miles. And we found that if you stopped every 75 miles or so, at the end of the day, you'd stop, you know, unload your stuff in the motel or campsite or whatever, and go get something to eat or prepare something to eat. And then you're ready to do stuff for the evening until dark. You know, and if we were to drive like nonstop, the last time we went to Spearfish, South Dakota, it was exactly 600 miles from Spearfish to our home, and we decided to do it in one giant run. And even though we stopped, you know, for gas in every 75 to 100 miles or whatever, 600 miles was a lot on a motorcycle. When I got back home, I was pretty much done driving. Well, with an electric car, you're kind of going with that same strategy, where you stop every 100 miles or so, and it really kind of does make driving more enjoyable. You're not just sitting there, just you kind of lose presence when you're just driving and driving and driving. When you get out, you just feel refreshed. It's just refreshing to stop that little bit. So with an electric car, that's what you do, is you stop every 100 miles or so, and you might go from 45% charge to 60%, which is fine. That's going to give you 140 miles or so, and you're going to drive 100, you still have 40 miles left. Then you stop for dinner or lunch, however you want to term it. You're probably going to stop for at least a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, by the time you get your food and pay for it, and if you're doing a sit-down dinner, that kind of thing. And your car is going to get pretty much charged up to 80% or better while you're eating lunch. So you kind of work it into your schedule. So the scheduling's different than it is for a gas car, but I don't really see it as detrimental. The difference is, I guess, are you in a big hurry? Are you the type of person that goes on vacation and you drive like a maniac to get where you're going to go? See, I look at it where the drive is part of the experience. It's like when we go on motorcycle trips. The destination is not the highlight of the trip. The getting there is the highlight of the trip. Once you get there, you partake of whatever it is. If you're in the Black Hills or a Spearfish or wherever you may be, but the driving down the road and the scenery and the experience, that's a big part of the deal. Like I say, that's really kind of the biggest part of the deal. Even in the car, like driving around now, the driving is the enjoyable part. If it wasn't enjoyable, I wouldn't be doing it. Why would I get in the car and drive for no reason at all if it wasn't enjoyable? So there's a different mindset. And I think, the focus for people that has never driven a car, electric car, or, the information they get on is, public charging doesn't work and it takes forever, and and all this other stuff. Well, the car that I'm driving now and the one that my other electric car are older technology, and the charging is very slow on these. The new cars are really quick. You can just about manage them as you would a gasoline car. They charge up that fast. So you can imagine in the next 1 or 2 years how much more these cars will advance. I mean, this one here is 2020, so it's 4 years old, going on 5 years old, and it's old technology. You know, mine charges at 50 kilowatts maximum. The new ones charge at 300 kilowatts maximum. Some of them. Most of them are 150 or so. And my wife's car, that'll charge at 80 kilowatts. But like I say, it's totally workable. I don't have an issue. I certainly wouldn't trade this car in on a new one just for that reason. You know, and the other part of this too is right now I'm at about 80% charge. It was at 85%. When I get home, I probably won't plug this in, but if it was down to like 60% or 70%, I would plug it in. And I would plug it into my 110 volt charger, which is basically a trickle charger. And it would probably charge maybe 10% overnight, which is, you know, no big deal. I would probably drive around, put on a couple miles the next day, and then plug it in again, and after 2 or 3 days it'd be fully charged. If I was in a situation where I was going to have to drive maybe to northern Minneapolis or something, I would plug into my level 2 charger, which is going to charge it fully in about 8 or 9 hours. And you know, so you manage it a little bit different, you know, so it's really kind of nice when you plug the cars in at night, and in the morning you have a full tank. You know, it'd be just like if you had a gasoline car with a gas pump in your garage, and every night you'd stick a nozzle in your car and go in the house, and in the morning the thing would be full. You know, I go to a gas station now. I haven't been to a gas station and bought gas for 3 years, but I do go there and buy coffee and lunch once in a while. If we go on like when we go on a trip down to Preston, if I go fishing, I'll stop at a Quick Trip and get a sandwich and a cup of coffee. But I don't buy gas. I bought a gallon of gas here a couple of years ago, I think. I mixed up some gas for my weed whip and not my weed whip. I've got a leaf blower that runs on. That's the only gasoline tool I have. And then my motorcycle obviously is gas, but yeah, except for my motorcycle, I don't buy gas anymore, which is kind of nice. It's very convenient. You know, I guess you can highlight the inconvenience of having to plan your trip around charging facilities, and but then again, you look at the convenience of never going to a gas station, always having a full tank when you leave in the morning. You know, a lot of people too say, well, I don't know where I charge it. Well, don't you have a plug-in in your garage? That's where you charge it. Where 99% of your charging is in your own garage. And if you bring up an app like PlugShare, there are charging stations everywhere. Now, our town is 7,000 population, and we have 12 charging stations in our town. And the other comment people say is, well, you can't park at these spots in the parking lot because it says EVs only, but there's never anybody there. Well, gee, I wonder why. It's because people charge at home. They use those chargers when you're on a trip, you know, when you're going somewhere. Like I said, if I'm going to Kansas, I'll stop 3 times on the way to Kansas. You know, once for a break, once for dinner, once for another break, and then I'm there. But I will use public charging 3 times on that trip and then 3 times back. And then the rest of the year, I'll just charge in my own garage. How much does it cost me to charge? I've got a little chart where I plugged mine in, and it's to my level 2 charger at 5.56 kilowatts per hour, and it says it was going to take 10 hours to charge. It took 9.5. The total amount was $7.38. That's what it cost me to charge my car from 20% to 85%, which gave me about 200 miles of range. It cost me $7.35 to drive 200 miles. So just do the math on that. How much is gas right now? Right now it's $3.40 in town here. It's probably going to go up a little bit, but it's $3.40 now. So that's to go 200 miles. If you're getting 40 miles to a gallon, if you got a high efficiency car, even if you're getting 50 miles to a gallon, it's still half the price. Most people, if you're driving a Chevy Suburban or a Duramax diesel or a pickup truck, just do the math. I know when I filled when I had my Escalade, every time I put the nozzle in the tank, it was a $100 bill. Now it's $7.38. 38 or 35. I think it was 38 cents. 3 cents, 4 cents. What's the difference? It's amazing. It's actually amazing. So, like I say, the psychology is a little bit different. I think we have pretty much dispelled the bursting into flames nonsense, because they've proven that a gasoline car is 49 times more likely to burst into flames than an electric car. And now with the new LFP batteries, you can change that to about 100% because LFP batteries don't catch on fire. You can make them catch on fire, but you really got to try. You have to basically put them in a fire to make them catch on fire. Yeah, LFP batteries are the way to go right now, and that's the way everybody's going until they come up with a new and much improved design, which I'm sure they will do soon. So anyway, that is my take on the psychology behind the difference, playing with the electric cars or playing with the ICE cars.